Hi, have you ever been told to stop cracking your knuckles because it'll cause arthritis? This is a very common myth that many people believe. However, scientific research does not support these claims. Today, I will be debunking the myth that cracking your knuckles can cause arthritis. Many of us grew up hearing, "Don't crack your knuckles or you'll regret it later in life by developing arthritis." And this may sound reasonable at first, considering the loud sounds your knuckles make when you crack them, or perhaps you may have experienced a dull amount of pain after cracking your knuckles one time. Several studies have debunked this association between cracking your knuckles and developing arthritis. One study in 2011 in particular looked at knuckle crackers versus non-knuckle crackers and increased risk and incidence of arthritis. They found that there was no significant difference between either of these groups and that neither of them developed nor were at an increased risk for arthritis over an extended period of time. The act of cracking a knuckle is a biomechanical process that involves synovial fluid. Synovial fluid acts as a lubricant and coats all of the joints in your body and allows you to move things like your arms, legs, and even your hands freely without any restrictions. When cracking a knuckle, gases like nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide form gas bubbles within the synovial fluid through a process called cavitation. The popping sound that you hear when you crack your knuckle is these gas bubbles collapsing due to pressure changes within the joint. At the cellular level of knuckle cracking, the synovial membrane plays a critical role in producing synovial fluid to keep the joint lubricated. Synovial fluid production involves two different specialized cells, type A synoviocytes and type B synoviocytes. Type A synoviocytes are responsible for debris removal of things like damaged cartilage and bone cells from the joint, and then type B synoviocytes produce hyaluron, which aids in joint lubrication. Now, at the organismal level of knuckle cracking, we want to talk about the joint as a whole and the mechanics of it rather than the individual cellular components. Human joints consist of three main parts. There's cartilage, ligaments, and then the synovial membrane. All of these things work together to facilitate movement within the joint, and when a joint cracks, the mechanics of the gas bubbles collapsing causes a temporary change in the joint space, but these changes do not lead to any damage or negative effects. Cartilage is a firm but flexible connective tissue that's found throughout your body. In the context of joints, it plays a very crucial role as a protective cushion between your bones so that they don't damage each other. Joint cartilage, or particularly articular cartilage, is specialized for movement, and it covers the end of bones within the synovial joints in places like the hips and the shoulders, and in our case, the fingers. And it works in tandem with synovial fluid to ensure smooth and pain-free motion. The third and final part of the joint is the synovial membrane, which I briefly talked about before. The synovial membrane contains the synoviocytes, and it's a thin layer of tissue that lines the inside of the joint capsule, and it produces the synovial fluid, and the synovial fluid lubricates the joint, which helps to nourish the cartilage and reduce friction during movement. It is also important to take into context the ecological and evolutionary aspects of knuckle cracking and the occurrence of arthritis. Autoimmune forms of arthritis, like rheumatoid arthritis, occur due to complex immune system interactions rather than mechanical processes like knuckle cracking. Osteoarthritis in the finger joints can also develop from overuse over many years, wearing away at the cartilage layer within the synovial joint, causing different symptoms like pain, swelling, and stiffness. I think it's very important to be able to distinguish between the normal biomechanical processes of joint movement, like knuckle cracking, and then the different factors like pathological conditions, finger joint stressors, and time that actually do lead to arthritis. Not only is it super important to understand the biomechanical processes behind knuckle cracking and the development of arthritis, but it's also important to dispel of these different health myths. Educating the public about scientific evidence behind health behaviors can encourage a reliance on facts rather than misinformation. Education plays a key role in developing critical thinking skills and helping individuals make informed health decisions. Misinformation about health conditions like the myth surrounding knuckle cracking can have far-reaching impacts on public health by moving focus away from legitimate concerns, like how autoimmune dysfunction can cause rheumatoid arthritis and how then rheumatoid arthritis does not even have a cure. Combating misinformation requires accessible science communication strategies that make accurate information widely accessible to people, but also understandable to the public without oversimplifying issues. Thanks for watching.